Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Minimalist Run. We had just completed defeating all the 4 Poe sisters, and now this elevator has just risen from the ground in the center atrium, and we are able to descend to the lower catacombs, where the boss resides. Now we get an interesting little, I wouldn't even say puzzle, but just obstacle of pushing a rotating room around a couple times, and looking to see what doorways open up as the room rotates. Now, if you rotate it the wrong way, obviously, you're going to have a hard time trying to solve this puzzle. There seems to be only really one solution to this puzzle, and it's always rotating in a counterclockwise fashion. Rotating it clockwise is going to have you do the room out of order, and it's going to be taking you a lot more time. So it seems like the designers wanted you to push it counterclockwise, and they set up the switches and the doors that are opened by these switches in exactly the order you'll encounter them in if you continue pushing the room counterclockwise. That's why I say it's not really a puzzle, because it's kind of set up to solve itself as you push the room around. So, So kind of disappointing. I would expect a couple more spins this way, that way, as you try and figure out which switch goes to what. But yeah, overall, just push it counterclockwise, and the whole room solves itself. There's not much to say here. Interesting concept, though, and I wish they had done it in a later Zelda with a little bit more complexity. But unfortunately, they never really revisited this idea. And just like that, we're moving on ahead to the boss. Now, this boss was completely unexpected for me when I first played this game. I did not expect this boss at all. I thought it was going to be something big, huge, like the Helmasaur King from, the Dark Temple in Link to the Past. But no, we got something rather different. Now, obviously, the boss don't show up until you try and leave the area, and then, of course, the cutscene happens. And what we get is Ganondorf? No, actually, we get Phantom Ganon. This is the first iteration of this particular type of concept boss. He appears in later Zeldas, but he was originally appearing here in Ocarina of Time, Phantom Ganon. And the unique part to this battle is that he hides in 6 paintings. I think it's 6. And he comes down the pathway. Of course, the telltale sign that he's going to be coming out of one painting over the other is the circular purple portal that appears on the painting itself. Then, of course, he leaps across the room and shoots lightning across the entire ground. And the only safe spots are actually where I'm standing right now. There's little Triforce marks in the corners of the room which are safe from the lightning that he shoots down. They won't strike these little Triforce marks. Again, me trying to get used to bow and arrow aiming when I was younger with the N64 controller. I had such a hard time trying to aim at him when he was coming out of paintings. I would always miss. And at the time, I didn't know about these special Triforce marks on the ground that would be safe from his lightning. So I kept getting, kept getting damaged. I kept dying. It was awful. It truly was. So now we get into a battle which could best be described as baseball, I guess? When you try and shoot arrows at him and other tactics, he's going to block everything. So the only way to get it back at him is, of course, is to hit the magic back towards him. Because you do have the Master Sword, which is the Bane of Evil, right? So when he gets far off like this, he's ready to be doing a game of ping pong, which I failed miserably at. He'll laugh a couple times before he's ready to ping pong again. trick is to hit and swing just a little earlier than before the ball of energy gets to you. Because if you swing any later, the ball will hit you, and you'll lose a heart of damage. So you kind of want to swing earlier than later. This is true later in the game when you fight Ganondorf for real himself. You want to swing early. And what makes this harder is that the more you ping-pong it back and forth, faster it gets. So, like, seriously, oh, he's done. Well, that was quick. But the more it ping-pongs back and forth between you two, the faster the ball of energy gets, and it's harder to try and time that swing earlier and earlier each and every time. This boss I hated, absolutely hated when I was younger. It took, I think I actually kind of skipped ahead and explored the rest of the world, and maybe I think went to a different dungeon before coming back and facing this boss again, because it was just, I could not beat him for the life of me. It was awful. I mean, once I mastered shooting him out of paintings, which more or less was easy after a while, timing that ping pong battle as it got faster and faster as a young kid, this made this boss one of the worst ones for me in the game, bar none. In fact, other than Bongo Bongo later, this probably was one of the worst bosses for me in this game. So, kudos to Phantom Ganon for actually bringing a good challenge to the game. Now we've unsealed the first sage here, Soraya, our dear childhood friend. Now, I don't know what happens to these sages. I mean, you awaken them, and they appear in the Temple of Light here, and they give you their power, their medallion or whatever, the little MacGuffin here. But what do they do after that? Do they just stay here and just watch over your progress? I mean, do they have lives? Do they eat? Do they sleep? What happens to the sages here? Are they just kind of locked in eternal purgatory here while you try and save the world and beat Ganon? I have no idea. I mean, in the ending, you kind of see them outside of the Temple of Light, and so it seems like they do have some sort of life, outside of their duties as sages, but right now, between now and the ending of the game, it's like, what happens? What do they do while they wait? Anyway, we're back at the Deku Tree. What is this? Oh, God! I'm surprised that Sprout didn't just smack Link in the nose and just destroy his face. That's pretty much what would have happened. Yeah, we kind of figured that. Well, I think that was pretty obvious when Link actually grew up that he wasn't Kokiri, and the fact that he didn't have a fairy. But it took this long in the game for us to reveal that to not only Link, but the players as well. Not much is said about the mother, and the father is strangely absent. Sounds like a miracle virgin birth going on here. So you can infer from that as you will about Link's heritage. So pretty much the only new thing we learn is that he was brought here earlier to the Deku Tree, who took him in and probably had Soraya, of all people, raise him as from a child, from a baby. Alright! One major dungeon down as an adult. And still Minimalist, 3 hearts. We're doing great! And just like that, everything is back to normal in the Kokiri Forest. There's no more monsters, nothing, and the Kokiri are back to their normal selves. You can see the fairies here and there, indicating where a Kokiri is. As you get closer, they kind of pop in. See, poof, there she is. Poof, there he is. And I don't think they did that actually when you were a young child. I think that you could see them from far away. I'm going to have to actually go back and take a look at the footage from when I was a young kid, but I don't think they pop in like that when you're a child, but they do when you're an adult. So I don't know if that's intentional. Like, they don't show themselves to adults until you get closer, or they see that you're a friend. I don't know. That might be story-related, why that is, or it just might be hardware limitations. I don't know. Could be intentional, could be not, that they only pop in like that when you're near them as an adult rather than as a child. If anybody can confirm that for me, I'd really like to know. Anyway, we are done with the forest area for now, so we're going to move onward to the next section, which would be Kakariko Village and onward to Death Mountain, and see what happened to our buddies, the Gorons. So in essence, you're kind of retracing your steps as a child, as an adult now, but from when you were a child. Because you went to the forest first, solved the problems there, then you went to Death Mountain and solved the problems there with the Gorons, and then you go to the Zoras at Zora River and solve the problems there with them. So the first 3 dungeons are kind of hitting those 3 notes all over again. Good intention and design there. Now, Death Mountain is a lot more dangerous than it used to be. Because now we have rocks rolling down the mountainside, waiting to crush you. So you kind of have to watch out for those. Now, obviously, the first thing you'd probably want to do to figure out what happened to this place is to go to the Goron City, which seems reasonable enough. You know, I mean, you're like, hey, man, what happened to my friends? Let's see if there's anybody left over to kind of tell me what the situation is here with the flaming spire of death around the actual summit of Death Mountain. You know, what's the flaming cloud for? What's the business there? But no, it's strangely empty. The only Goron in existence right now is on this level, which I'm at, and he's rolling around. Now, if you were to go back in time to the kid version of Goron City, there would be a much bigger rolling Goron on the same level, just rolling around and around. And if you bombed him, you would actually, I think, get a bomb upgrade, a bomb bag upgrade. Here, you kind of have to stop an even smaller Goron with a bomb, which is even harder for story purposes. And you don't just bomb him in any specific location. You have to go bomb him, I think. Yeah, that was failure completely. Yeah, you have to bomb him, I think, in the overhang, the shadowed overhang over to the left here. Yeah. So this is, as you can see, I cut it ahead until I finally got a hold of him. Yep. You have to be near this area under the rocky overhang. So if you bomb him right next to him as he rolls into that area, he'll stop. And the same goes for the bigger Goron in the past, as a child. So yeah, I wasted a lot of bombs trying to stop this stupid Goron, who happens to be named Matthew. Because Gorons are pretty sentimental about that and name their children after their heroes or friends. I'd love to sign you an autograph like a celebrity here, but I think we got more serious issues to deal with. A dragon. Well, the order is actually important. If you ask him about the Gorons, he'll continue crying because he started crying because of talking about the Gorons. So you instead want to ask him about the dragon first, and then you ask him about the Gorons, and then he'll tell you everything. So the order, I think, is pretty important in talking to this particular Goron. Either way, you're still going to have to get both pieces of information out of him. I mean, I don't see any real purpose for Ganondorf's men to really take the Gorons out and give them over to the dragon in the Fire Temple, other than just pure sadism. I mean, there just seems to be no other reason than just to be cruel and evil. I mean, if anything, you could get the Gorons to probably be good slave labor for you, but no, they just want to feed them to the dragon, just for the evils. Just like that, we have a new tunic. It does not reduce the amount of damage that happens to you, but you can now go through hot, super hot areas, like the interior of the volcano, without taking damage. Now, I think this guy is hilarious. Talk to the owner. Oh no! Everybody's gone, only I was left behind! He seems so, just shocked that his whole town just went to crap and then sold to Volvagia for food. I think he's just glad to be alive. I don't think he cares one bit about any of his brethren. Now, obviously, with Darunia gone, you can now pull this statue out and find a secret hidden passage to the inner volcano. And we're running a little tight on time. So, of course, yes, it's a little bit hot in here. I have 22 seconds to live. So this is where this red tunic comes in handy. But we're going to stop this right here, and we'll continue in the next video. We're going to enter the Fire Temple for the first time. See y'all then. Bye now.